There are the makings of a refugee crisis tonight as families escape the crackdown of the Syrian dictatorship. A rebellion started last March against the 40-year rule of the al-Assad family. Now, Syrians, fearing an all-out government assault, are fleeing by the hundreds into Turkey. Elizabeth Palmer is there.
Clandestine video shows the Syrian military surrounding the town of Jisr al-Shagur. Last weekend, the Syrian government says 120 soldiers and police were shot dead here and that they were killed by armed gangs. Townspeople say the men were executed by fellow soldiers when they refused to fire on anti-government protesters. Whatever the truth, the town has emptied and the streets are deserted. Residents, terrified the army is about to attack, are fleeing, most of them on foot to safety over the Turkish border. One distraught woman accuses the soldiers of driving her out of her home. On the Turkish side of the border, police have been picking up the refugees from the roadsides and driving them to temporary shelter in an old cigarette factory. For the moment, though, the police aren't letting journalists in to talk to them, and the refugees aren't being allowed out. This is the main refugee camp that's been set up very close to the border. You can see the tents and also a group of refugees who have just arrived. We counted 4 minibuses coming in the main gate. They'll be processed and settled in. The United Nations says there are about 1,500 here now, and who knows how many more expected in the coming days. But given that the violence between Syrian security forces and protesters is still escalating across the country, Turkey is bracing itself for a human flood. Tomorrow's Friday, the day of rest in the Muslim world, and it's been the day when protesters gather after prayers at the mosques, so it could be a day of especially ugly confrontations all over Syria. Scott?
Elizabeth, you've been traveling all day and half the night to get up into the mountains of Turkey where you are. Give us some sense of what you're seeing there now.
The people in this tiny village where we are telling me that they see the Syrians coming through the farms and the fields, some of them with gunshot wounds and other wounds. They're being taken to hospitals here. For the moment, the area is coping. It's very rural, but it simply can't accept thousands and thousands of refugees. So I think we'll see in the next few days big pressure from the Turkish government on Damascus to stop the violence and start talking to the protesters.
Damascus, the Syrian capital. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.